We do have breaking news coming in just now. The FAA has just now imposed a new ground delay for Newark-bound flights this morning. As we mentioned, the 9th straight day of staffing shortages and snarled travel at that airport. Also this morning, we have new details on what really was some terrifying communication breakdowns that led to this now more than a week of chaos. Newly obtained audio offers a glimpse into the moments air traffic control lost communication and radar with planes in the air, leaving air traffic controllers essentially flying blind. Here's some of the audio where the tower tells one plane that the radar is down.
9674 approach. 74, radar contact lost. We lost our radar. So just stay on the arrival and maintain 6,000.
So that incident was on April 28th. It was so traumatic. Sources tell CNN at least 5 employees have now taken special government leave to recover from the stress of it. And that has compounded the ongoing staffing shortage and further adding to the travel mess for thousands of flyers going through Newark, one of the nation's busiest airports. And on Monday, the FAA acknowledged that antiquated air traffic control system, that system is impacting its workforce. And the Transportation Department says it's going to be announcing plans to overhaul that system. But those are long-term plans, and those plans are going to be coming out Thursday. Let's get over to CNN's Pete Muntean for much more on this. You obtained this audio. It's really important to hear. And now we have this breaking news of further delays.
Yeah, and the latest here, Kate, is that the FAA imposed another delay for flights bound to Newark until midnight tonight due to these air traffic control staffing shortages. Now the 9th straight day of these delays. That new audio you speak of and the new statement from the FAA are essentially confirming our reporting that paints the best picture yet of how this all started. This all goes back to an incident last Monday at a key radar facility that's responsible for Newark flights. And a source familiar with that incident tells me that Newark approach controllers lost both radio and radar systems for an undisclosed amount of time, meaning that they were essentially doing their jobs blind. It's called NORDO, no radio. The source also tells me that led to at least 5 controllers taking what's called trauma leave, that legally entitles controllers to 45 days off. It's a huge development and explains the repeat delays that have caused these staffing shortages. I want you to listen now to the audio captured by liveatc.net. And in it, a controller is explaining to a smaller airplane to essentially go away because he has no ability to pick up that plane on radar. Listen.
No, you do not have a Bravo clearance. We lost our radar and it's not working correctly. Radar service terminated, squawk VFR, green change approved. If you want a Bravo clearance, you can just call the towers when you get closer.
Okay, I'll wait for that frequency from you, okay?
Okay, no, just squawk VFR, look up the tower frequencies, and we don't have a radar, so I don't know where you are.
You can hear the frustration there in the controller's voice. We also have this new analysis from flight tracking site Flight Radar 24, and in it, it says that 15 to 20 flights were being controlled by Newark approach controllers during last Monday's equipment outage. The FAA has been investigating the cause here, although all agree that the aging technology at the FAA is at the center of this problem, what's been plaguing that agency for decades. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy says the Trump administration will announce a sweeping new overhaul of air traffic control sometime this week, but still no clear timetable here, Kate, on when these delays at Newark will end. The FAA says the controllers who are out on trauma leave simply cannot be replaced quickly because their jobs are highly specialized. You can't just drag and drop a controller from one location and put them in another. It's a really tough spot they're in right now.
Yeah, and the overhaul necessary that's going to be announced, but that clearly is going to take time. That's not
decades.
Decades. I mean, so there is a very, very immediate, serious short-term problem as well as the long-term issue. Pete, thank you so much. Pete's going to be bringing us breaking news on this throughout the morning. John?
All right, with us now, CNN aviation analyst Miles O'Brien. Miles, good morning. This new bit of information reported by Pete there, that these controllers overseeing Newark lost radar and radio for a stretch of time. How significant, how dangerous is that?
It's very significant, very potentially dangerous. The controllers handled it as they should, did not allow the traffic to enter the sector. Of course, they didn't know where the traffic exactly was. John, this is such a perfect storm. You have this aging infrastructure, this aging system that is held together with baling wire and duct tape. On top of that, chronic shortage of air traffic controllers. And then as a potential answer to that problem, the FAA decides to move some of the positions from the New York area down to Philadelphia in order to try to address staffing issues. And in so doing, the communication failed. So you've got all these things coming together, and throw in the fact that they're building a new runway or rebuilding a runway at Newark. Really have a perfect storm scenario here.
So they've had now, just announced minutes ago, this 9th straight day of delays. In this case, it's ground delays for inbound flights. It's 9 so far, but given that these are systemic issues, will it be 90 days? I mean, how long will it take for them to get this straight?
Well, you're right. A lot of this is you cannot snap your fingers. It's not like hiring somebody at a fast food restaurant to be an air traffic controller. A certified professional controller has many, many years of training. You just don't do that overnight. The one thing that could give air travelers in and out of Newark some optimism is that runway construction is finite and should be done in the June timeframe. But that's a lot of delays between now and then. And I guess the best thing to advise travelers is to probably book around Newark.
Huh. And very quickly, Miles, is flying, especially around Newark, less safe than it was a year ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago?
You know, I think, as I always say, the controllers, the individuals who run this system daily perform quiet, heroic acts in spite of a system that is built to set them up for failure. I believe in those people doing their job, but there's only so much stress they can take.
Miles O'Brien, thank you for explaining this so well. Great to see you this morning. Appreciate it.
Joining me now to discuss Harvey Skolnick, a retired FAA air traffic controller. Harvey, thanks for being with us. First, I want to ask, what is it like to be in a near-miss situation? Because I'm trying to understand why these air traffic controllers would be so traumatized that they would need to take leave. Because when we listen to their voices, right, it always sounds calm.
Well, they are calm most of the time because they know what they're doing. This was a situation at Newark when you lose radar and radio at the same time. That is an occurrence which in all my 38 years of the FAA only happened once to me. So that is an extreme situation.
Can you talk about this idea of the shortage of air traffic controllers? A source familiar with the situation told CNN the controllers didn't just walk off the job. They were traumatized because their equipment failed. They says it's written in the regulations that if they experience a traumatic event, they can take time off to see a psychiatrist. The people working that day did that. What more can you tell us about this kind of program? It's obviously a high pressure job, but I can't imagine what the pressure is like this last couple months.
You know, it is a high pressure job, but most of the people that I have worked with is what made the job so charming. The pressure situations that allowed you to make quick decisions, look forward ahead in making your decision, make quick changes when your first decision didn't plan out the way you had expected. So, but it's a matter of having the aptitude for that job. Now, these controllers at Newark, many of them are unhappy to begin with. They were about a year ago working at a facility in Westbury, Long Island, and suddenly they found themselves working at a facility at the Philadelphia airport. So they're not too happy to begin with because they've had to relocate. So in addition, they're short-staffed. And that seems to be the problem of the FAA right now. The FAA, for years, as I can recall, in the busier facilities, has always operated short of the required number of fully certified controllers that were programmed for those facilities.
The Trump administration
might be having a morale issue.
Say more about that, because obviously there are being cuts made across federal government. People were told, well, maybe you may want to step away. The president at one point talking about DEI. There's just been a lot of incoming, so to speak, for air traffic control. But when I read what you've written in the past, it was already in a weakened state, right, given funding shortages through many administrations.
Yeah, so, first, these days controllers are working in a fishbowl. Everyone has a cell phone now and a smartphone, and they hear every transmission every controller makes at every facility in America. And so when they make minor mistakes, which sometimes they do, even those mistakes seem to be become more important than they really are. I'm not sure that the frequency of minor errors is any more now than it ever was, but we just hear about it more. And so they just find themselves more under the microscope than ever before. I mean, it's a tough job to begin with. And when you make every transmission and worry about, how close airplanes are going to come, then it's a difficult way to operate in that job.